Influence on culture and society. Edward IV's reign had a notable impact on English culture and society. His court became a center of patronage and artistic endeavor, reflecting the broader trends of the Renaissance that were beginning to influence England. Edward's support for the arts and his interest in architecture and building projects left a lasting legacy. One of Edward's most significant contributions to cultural life was the construction of several important buildings and structures. He invested in the rebuilding of St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, which became a prominent example of late Gothic architecture. Edward also initiated the construction of Eltham Palace, which showcased the luxurious tastes of his court. Edward's reign saw the growth of the English economy and the expansion of trade, particularly with Burgundy and other European powers. His policies helped to promote economic stability and growth, benefiting the mercantile and manufacturing sectors. This period of relative prosperity contributed to the flourishing of culture and the arts. In addition to his patronage of the arts, Edward was also known for his interest in chivalric ideals and the promotion of knighthood. He revived the Order of the Garter, enhancing its prestige and using it as a tool for rewarding loyalty and service. Edward's promotion of chivalric values and ceremonies helped to reinforce the social hierarchy and the ideals of knighthood. Death and succession. Edward IV's unexpected death in 1483 set off a chain of events that plunged England into political turmoil and led to one of the most famous succession crises in English history. His death left the throne to his young son, Edward V, and opened the way for the rise of Richard III. Circumstances of Edward IV's death. Edward IV died on April 9, 1483, at the age of 40. The exact cause of his death remains unclear, though contemporary accounts suggest he may have succumbed to illness, possibly pneumonia or typhoid. Some historians speculate that his indulgent lifestyle, marked by feasting and drinking, may have contributed to his early demise. Edward's death came as a shock to the nation. At the time of his passing, Edward was in relatively good health and actively engaged in the governance of his kingdom. His sudden death left a power vacuum and created uncertainty about the future of the Yorkist dynasty. Immediate impact on England. The immediate impact of Edward IV's death was profound. He left behind a kingdom that, while more stable than when he first ascended the throne, was still vulnerable to political intrigue and factionalism. Edward's eldest son and heir, Edward V, was only 12 years old at the time, too young to rule independently. To manage the transition, Edward IV had appointed his brother Richard, Duke of Gloucester, as Lord Protector, a role intended to safeguard the young king and maintain stability until Edward V reached maturity. However, this arrangement quickly unraveled as competing factions within the court sought to exert their influence. Succession crisis. The succession crisis that followed Edward IV's death was marked by rapid and dramatic developments. Initially, Edward V was to be crowned king, and he traveled to London from Ludlow Castle, where he had been residing. However, on his way to the capital, Edward V and his younger brother, Richard, Duke of York, were intercepted by Richard, Duke of Gloucester. Richard, backed by a faction of nobles including Henry Stafford, Duke of Buckingham, took control of the young king and his brother, ostensibly to protect them from potential threats. Edward V was housed in the Tower of London, a traditional residence for monarchs awaiting coronation. However, the situation quickly took a darker turn. On June 22, 1483, Richard declared that Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville had been invalid, rendering their children illegitimate. This claim was based on the pretext of a pre-contract of marriage between Edward IV and Lady Eleanor Butler, which, if true, would have invalidated his subsequent marriage to Elizabeth Woodville. Richard's declaration was supported by an assembly of lords and commoners, and he was proclaimed king as Richard III on June 26, 1483. The young princes, Edward V and Richard of Shrewsbury, disappeared from public view while confined in the Tower of London. Their fate remains one of the greatest mysteries in English history, with most historians believing they were murdered, possibly on Richard III's orders, to eliminate any potential threats to his claim to the throne. Legacy of the succession crisis. The succession crisis and Richard III's usurpation had significant and far-reaching consequences. Richard III's reign was immediately controversial, and his seizure of the throne was viewed by many as illegitimate. This perception fueled opposition to his rule and contributed to the instability that characterized his brief reign. The disappearance and presumed murder of the princes in the Tower cast a long shadow over Richard III's reputation. These events undermined his credibility and provided a powerful rallying point for his enemies. The uncertainty and unrest created by the succession crisis ultimately set the stage for the rise of Henry Tudor, who would challenge Richard III and bring an end to the Wars of the Roses. In 1485, Henry Tudor defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field, effectively ending the Yorkist claim to the throne. Henry's victory marked the beginning of the Tudor dynasty and a new chapter in English history. He married Elizabeth of York, Edward IV's daughter, uniting the warring houses of York and Lancaster and symbolically ending the dynastic conflict. Legacy. Edward IV's legacy is multifaceted, encompassing his impact on the English monarchy and politics, his contributions to culture and society, and the way he is perceived in historiography and popular culture. Despite the turbulence of his reign, Edward's influence extended beyond his lifetime, shaping the course of English history in significant ways. Long-term impact on the English monarchy and politics. Edward IV's reign had a profound and lasting impact on the English monarchy and the political landscape of the country. Several key aspects of his legacy can be identified. Strengthening of the monarchy. Edward IV's efforts to consolidate royal authority and restore law and order helped to strengthen the monarchy after a period of civil strife. His administrative reforms and efforts to curb the power of overmighty subjects laid the groundwork for a more centralized and efficient government. This consolidation of royal power provided a foundation for future monarchs to build upon. Economic reforms. Edward's financial acumen and economic reforms contributed to the stabilization and growth of the English economy. His efforts to increase crown revenues and improve fiscal management helped to ensure the financial stability of the monarchy. This economic foundation was crucial for the continued development of trade and commerce in England. Dynastic stability. Although his sudden death and the subsequent succession crisis threatened the stability of the Yorkist dynasty, Edward's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville and their numerous children ensured the continuation of his bloodline. The marriage of his daughter, Elizabeth of York, to Henry VII ultimately united the warring houses of York and Lancaster, establishing the Tudor dynasty and bringing an end to the Wars of the Roses. Military achievements. Edward's military prowess and strategic acumen were demonstrated in his numerous victories during the Wars of the Roses. His successes on the battlefield not only secured his own reign, but also shaped the course of English military history. The tactics and strategies employed by Edward influenced subsequent military leaders and campaigns. Historiographical perspectives. Historians have offered varying perspectives on Edward IV's reign, reflecting the complexities and contradictions of his rule. Some key historiographical views include effective monarch. Many historians view Edward IV as an effective and capable monarch who managed to restore stability and strengthen the monarchy after a period of chaos. His administrative and economic reforms are often highlighted as significant achievements that had a lasting impact on the governance of England. Controversial decisions. Edward's controversial decisions, such as his marriage to Elizabeth Woodville and his handling of the succession, have been the subject of considerable debate. Some historians criticize these decisions for creating political tensions and contributing to the instability of his reign. Others argue that these choices were pragmatic responses to the challenges he faced. Charismatic leader. Edward's charisma and leadership qualities are frequently emphasized in historical accounts. His ability to inspire loyalty and command respect played a crucial role in his success as a ruler. However, his reliance on personal relationships and favoritism also created divisions and rivalries within his court. Mixed legacy. Overall, Edward IV's legacy is seen as mixed, combining significant achievements with notable controversies. His reign is often characterized as a period of transition, marking the end of the medieval era and the beginning of the early modern period in English history. Edward IV in popular culture. Edward IV's life and reign have been depicted in various forms of popular culture, including literature, drama, and film. These portrayals reflect the enduring fascination with his character and the dramatic events of his time. Shakespeare's plays. Edward IV is a prominent character in William Shakespeare's history plays, particularly Henry VI, Part 3, and Richard III. Shakespeare's portrayal of Edward highlights his military prowess and charisma, as well as the political intrigues and conflicts of his reign. These plays have significantly shaped public perceptions of Edward and the Wars of the Roses. Historical novels. Edward IV has been featured in numerous historical novels that explore his life and times. Authors such as Philippa Gregory, in her Cousins' War series, and Sharon K. Penman have brought Edward's story to life through fiction. These novels often focus on the personal and political dramas of his reign, offering readers a vivid glimpse into the past. Television and film. Edward IV has been portrayed in various television series and films, including adaptations of Shakespeare's plays and historical dramas about the Wars of the Roses. These portrayals have contributed to the popular image of Edward as a charismatic and complex figure. Documentaries. Edward IV's reign has been the subject of numerous documentaries that explore the historical context and key events of his time. These documentaries often draw on the latest historical research to provide a comprehensive and nuanced view of his life and legacy. Conclusion. King Edward IV's life and reign were marked by dramatic events, significant achievements, and enduring controversies. His rise to power during the Wars of the Roses, his efforts to consolidate and strengthen the monarchy, and his contributions to English culture and society all left a lasting legacy. Despite the challenges and conflicts he faced, Edward IV's impact on English history is undeniable. Edward's ability to navigate the turbulent political landscape of his time, his military successes, and his administrative reforms helped to stabilize England and set the stage for future developments. His marriage to Elizabeth Woodville and the subsequent unification of the houses of York and Lancaster through their daughter, Elizabeth of York, played a crucial role in ending the dynastic conflict and establishing the Tudor dynasty. While historians continue to debate the complexities of his reign, Edward IV remains a compelling figure whose story continues to captivate and inspire. His legacy, both in terms of his direct contributions and the long-term effects of his rule, highlights the dynamic and transformative nature of English history during the late medieval period. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Medieval Chronicles 1066. See you next time.